taking the best of the interviews from Heal Summit 1 and Heal Summit 2, a lot of the full-length interviews from the Heal documentary, and offering up some new interviews as well that we've recently recorded to help people. Sorry, that's okay. Life happens. To help people heal. And so the summit starts today. It's free. So you've all signed up and that's why you're here. So we are excited to kick today off with an amazing guest, an interview with Prince EA. For some of you who don't know, I'm Kelly Noonan-Gores. I'm the writer, director, and producer of the Heal documentary. And I'm here with an amazing inspiration. He's a motivational speaker. He started in the rap game and has pivoted into really inspiring people through spoken word artistry. And his videos on YouTube and Facebook have been seen over multiple billions of times, which I think is just phenomenal and fascinating. So everybody welcome Prince EA.
Yo, what's up? What's up? Happy to be here. Really happy to be in the same digital sphere as you, Kelly. So I just wanted to say also that I'm grateful and privileged to be here because what you just said, the producer, writer, like you took a holistic approach, which is what I'm all for, you know, like a holistic approach when it comes to healing. And I just want to give you my bow, my praise for having the courage to do that. So amazing.
Thank you. Thank you. I followed my heart as you have as well. And I just want to echo that right back to you because I know you're a busy man. And so we're just grateful to have your presence and your wisdom here today. So just for those who don't know who you are and don't follow you yet, or some of them already do, tell us a little bit about the origin of the name Prince EA, because I believe your given name is Richard, and I know there's an amazing story behind that. So please.
Yeah. Okay. The name Prince EA. Well, I got my degree in biological anthropology. And so anthropology, this is my college days, which are going just a long time ago. But for those that don't know about this amazing science of anthropology, which I think everybody in the world should take a course on anthropology because it just brings people together. But anthropology is the study of humans across time and space. Right. And there's different subsets of anthropology. There's linguistic anthropology, the study of language and how language has evolved. There's forensic anthropology. There's cultural anthropology. And I studied physical anthropology or biological anthropology because I'm just fascinated with who we are as a species. Been fascinated my whole life. Where do we come from? Right? Who are we now and where are we going? Right. These questions have always been in my mind since I was a little kid. And so I ended up picking up this degree of anthropology and learn more about where human civilization comes from. And there's different theories on that, some alternative theories, but the accepted theory of where the first culture known to man is the Sumerians. So Sumer, which is modern day Iraq. It went by many other names throughout history. Mesopotamia, Babylon. And so this is the first civilization known to man. These people, they created the wheel. They were so brilliant. They knew about all the planets in our solar system without the use of a telescope, right? A telescope hadn't even been discovered. And I'm thinking, how did they know, right? How did they know? They created the first written language. It was called cuneiform script. The characters were etched in stone. So make a long story short, they were an incredible group of people right out of the Stone Age. And as I'm researching into them more, I start learning about their history. There was, some might say mythology, others might say history. And so they talked about many different figures. This is where the Epic of Gilgamesh comes from, but they talked about many figures. And one of those figures that caught my attention, his name was Enki, or Prince EA, Prince Earth. And a long time ago, I was just fascinated with this character, because what Prince EA did, he freed mankind, but he didn't free them through revolution, through force, through violence. He freed them through knowledge and wisdom. Mm. And so I took on the name because a long time ago, because I felt through my art, through my videos, through my music at the time, through my content, I hope to free people through knowledge and wisdom.
Oh, that is so beautiful. So cool. We're doing the same here at Hay House and Heal, and what we did with the Heal documentary. We just want to empower people. So many people feel imprisoned or victims of circumstances or disease. And I, like you, am just fascinated where we came from, where we're going, what power we have to co-create with life. And I just really feel that your teachings, your wisdom, your content creation is doing just that. We're freeing people with wisdom and a different change in their perception. And that's what we're trying to do here today is with the Heal Summit as well. So it's awesome.
I truly believe that education is the most powerful weapon known to man. And if we can unleash that democratically to everybody in the world, if everybody had the chance to get the education to reveal the gift that's already inside of them, what an amazing world, what a potential world we could live in. This is my dream, right? To allow people, and I think yours too, to get people to, Ram Dass, he used to talk about polishing the mirror, which is removing the negative belief systems, removing you might say the toxic foods or foods that cause inflammation, that don't allow you to see things clearly. But when you can remove all of that, that's when we see ourselves in the world for what it truly is. And that's my hope. That's my dream, to scale that to over 1 billion people.
I love it. Well, I'm just honored to be a small part of your little journey here. Big journey. So it's polishing the mirror. It's cleaning the lens of perception through which we look at life, because as Bruce Lipton talks about in the film, and he's the interview, I think that one of the interviews today for the first day, is that our perception of life is what signals the epigenetics in our body to turn on genes or off genes. And we want to get to a place where we have such a clear perception of the truth of who we are and why we're here, and get rid of all that gunk that just forced on us since birth. And I know you know this, you talked about it before, but between the ages of 0 and 7, we are just downloading other people's programs, and 75% of those are negative and disempowering. That's what Bruce Lipton's going to talk about today. But if we can clear our perception, then we can have a healthy belief systems, a healthy view of life, which will then turn on our healthy genes and turn off our disease genes.
One thing's for sure: if you don't program yourself, you will be programmed by somebody else. I think it's Shad Helmstetter. He wrote a book called "What Do You Say When You Talk to Yourself?" And in this book, he mentioned a statistic that really just shocked me to my core. And he said that the average 18-year-old living in an average household with average parents, is told no, or you can't do that 150,000 times by the time they are 18 years old. These negative programs, I think we all have them. And again, if we don't program ourselves, the world will program us, and I don't think anybody wants to do that. My main point is we have choice. I think I want to reveal that we have freedom to choose. We can choose. It's sometimes we think when life happens to us, it's the fault of the external situation. But I think once we take that, I don't want to curse, it's a bad word. Once we take that responsibility, it's a bad word for many people, responsibility, right? Once we become responsible for our thoughts, for what thoughts we choose to believe, that's when we become free. There's a story of a new couple, and they move into this house, and a couple of weeks go by, and they realize they have a bird nest and a family of birds in their basement. What they think, they hear this beautiful, chirping, right? Every day, once they hear it, it just fills them with so much joy and happiness and light. They hear it, oh man, and every day they just hear it until maybe a week later, a guy comes down to inspect the house, right? So he goes in the basement and comes back up, and he says, "Hey, your alarm, your fire detector, your detector is broken. Have you been hearing a noise, some type of chirping noise?" And they're like, "Oh my God, I thought that was a family of birds." And so once they shift from the nice family of birds to now this broken alarm, they can't stand the sound anymore. What changed? It was their perception that changed. So once we realize that we have control over our choice, that's when we truly become free.
Ooh, I love that. And it's so true. Our perception is you and I could be standing here, we could be going on a hike together, rattlesnake crosses our path. You have a bad perception of rattlesnakes, that they, bit your best friend when you're growing up and you're terrified of rattlesnakes. I grew up in a snake charmer village, and I think these are the most beautiful, and it's an auspicious sign of wealth coming to me or something.
Wow.
Totally different perceptions. You're going to have stress chemistry pumping through your body, adrenaline, cortisol, and you're going to be stressed out. And I'm going to be like, whoo, overjoyed. So literally our perception, handles our biology and affects our biology in such a way. And I was going somewhere with that thought, and now it escaped me. But yeah, it's you mentioned responsibility, and it's so easy to give our power away, and get caught into victimhood, especially when we're faced with a gnarly diagnosis, something if a doctor tells you that you're going to have to take a pill for the rest of your life, or you have X amount of time to live, or these are the terrible statistics, we've studied so many people that chose not to buy into that perception, chose not to buy into that belief, and take responsibility for their health and do everything they can to get back in alignment with life. So you tell a story. I have a different story, but it's so powerful, because especially in the times that we're in right now, this pandemic, there's so much fear. We're in this global diagnosis of this, virus out there that can kill people. And it's a terrifying time for a lot of people. But I love you tell a story of the king and his assistant, so that and it's just a great reminder that we're not victims of our circumstance. We do have the power to respond differently, to take responsibility, to change our perception and move forward and heal, or move forward and thrive. So can you share that story?
So there's so many Hindu stories with a king and an assistant.
Okay. It's the one where he cuts himself shaving.
How did you hear this story? Okay.
Well, I have a different story. Then I heard this story and I was like, "Ooh, that's even better than my story." But it's the same concept. I'll share mine quickly after too.
Yeah. So this story I heard from a beautiful. He was a disciple of Ramana Maharshi. His name was Robert Adams, and he tells this story of a king and his assistant. So the assistant was very wise. He was very, very wise. And that's why the king kept him so close to him, because of his wisdom. And the assistant, he would always say, all is well and unfolding as it should. That's what he would always say. And, some of the other king's men, they got jealous of this assistant, this guy who was so close to the king. He had such great relationship. They were jealous. They're like, he's not that wise. What's going on with him? So one day, the king, he's getting his weekly shave, and he's shaving his beard, and he cuts himself so deeply, the blood starts to come out, right? And everybody rushes in. The king, he kind of almost dies, right? So much blood coming out. He actually ends up having to get stitches It's an intense moment. Well, so the hater assistants of the king, they were like, they had this plan because they knew what the king's close assistant would say. So they waited until everybody was in one room together, and they asked the assistant, they said, so what do you think about the king cutting himself, almost dying, shaving? And he says, all is well and unfolding as it should. And the king gets so angry. He gets so mad. What do you mean all is well? I almost died. What do you mean? Guards, put him in jail. So he puts him in a deep jail. So the king, he's so perturbed. He decides to take his horse and go for a ride, right? Just to kind of just free his mind, just to get away. So he takes his horse and he rides. Well, eventually he just gets lost. He rides so long. Now he's outside of his kingdom. And outside of the kingdom, everybody knows they're cannibals. So what happens? The king turns around and a cannibal snatches him off his horse, throws him down, takes all his clothes, and they put him, they're about to basically roast him on a fire as a sacrifice to their gods, right? Today, the day was a very auspicious day, and they had to sacrifice somebody, right? So they're like, oh, we got this king, cool. So they're getting ready to roast him, they're tying him up, and the king, he turns his face, and one of the cannibals, he sees this scar on the king's neck, and they say, oh, we can't sacrifice him. He's imperfect. He's not worthy of our gods. Let him go. So the king, he's like, oh my God, wow, that was close. So he finds his horse, he rides all the way back to his kingdom. And he's thinking, oh my God, my assistant, he was right. So he says, guards, let him out. Actually, get out of the way. I'm going to go down to the jail. So he goes down to the jail. He opens the door. He says, listen, you were right. I rode my horse outside of the kingdom. I got attacked by these cannibals. They saw the scar. You were right. Everything, all is well and unfolding as it should. And the assistant, he looks at the king and he says, yes, king, but that's not it. Who is the one that usually accompanies you on these trips with your horse? You are. Yes. And if I was there, they would have sacrificed me had you not thrown me in prison. All is well and unfolding as it should.
Oh, I love that. Because it's so hard when you're faced with a diagnosis or you're faced with some sort of loss and it doesn't make sense. And you're just like, why me? I've done everything right. And in hindsight, the people who have healed from something that doctors said they couldn't, every single one of them looks back or said was unlikely. Every single one of them, told us how their diagnosis or their loss or their tragedy turned out to be their greatest gift. And so if we could all have that hindsight, if we could all have that trust that all is well and everything is unfolding as it should, we can have the space and the power to go, okay, I'm not going to be robbed of my energy by spiraling down in victimhood and fear of someone else's opinion or someone else's story or someone else's label.
Love that. Love that. I truly believe that all suffering is, maybe 99% of suffering is due to one thing, and that is resistance against what is. And I say this because when we have an idea of what should be, we have an idea of what should be, and that goes against what is, that's when suffering happens. However, Ram Dass, he once said, He said, the world is perfect as it is, and so is my desire to want to heal it. The world is perfect as it already is, and so is my desire to want to heal it. This paradox that cannot be understood with the rational, logical mind. It can only be understood from the spiritual heart. When you understand and you accept what it is, but you also have an energy of wanting to compassionately heal it, right? So the energy is not from you want to change it. It shouldn't be like this. No, no, no. But it's an acceptance of the grace of the lesson that has been bestowed upon you. And then you take that and you transmute it into an energy of love.
Which is what we're here to talk about, choosing love to heal. And that's exactly right. When we're resisting, when we think life should be a different way, we're pushing back, we're escaping, we're distracting, we're drinking, we're shopping, we're whatever we do to escape and resist. And, you know, the first step in healing anything, emotional, physical, anything, is accepting what is, so we can drop that resistance and drop back into ease, which is where our body wants to be. And that frees up so much energy so that we can hear our intuition, or, you know, just energy to move forward. You know, we're often paralyzed. You have a video that says, "You are not depressed, stop it." Which could be triggering for some people, like, no, I am. Yeah.
It was.
Especially right now, you know, depression, anxiety, suicide is through the roof. And I would love for you just to give your perspective on that. It was such a beautiful metaphor that you painted for us.
Yeah. So depression is a very complex issue. There's many layers to it. There's a mood, what we define as a mood depression. There's a clinical depression. Whatever it is, it's passing. It's passing. And, you know, I can get into how to heal from depression, because there's so many different ways. Community is one. Nutrient therapy is one. Movement is one. Getting your micronutrient levels looked at is one. There's so many different ways. And if we stay stuck in the I am depressed kind of bubble, then it's tough to get out. So my point for that video was, it was a linguistic twist to say I am depressed versus I am experiencing depression right now. It's different. It feels different. You know, I always say I am the two most powerful words in any language. I say I am is kind of like water. Anything you say after I am, the I am starts to take that shape, right? So we have to be very, very careful with what we put after I am. So when we say I am depressed, that means our whole being is encompassed in that depression. But when we say I am currently experiencing depression, not only is it more scientifically precise and accurate, but it's also more true and more, it gives you more space to go through it. So that was the whole, and I got that from an amazing guy named Anthony DeMello. Amazing teacher. I would suggest everybody look into him. But it's so easy to fall into negative mind states. I think the mind it kind of naturally leans negative. I said before, I studied anthropology and the human species, and you know, we look at the universe, we kind of see that. We kind of see that the negative kind of is easier than the positive, right? It's easier for weeds to grow than it is flowers, right? You know, the weatherman, he says it's partly cloudy. You know, he doesn't say it's, you know, partly, you know, sun out. You know, it's like this negative, almost negative spin on reality, and it's in our language. But I think when we can take control of our language and the words that we use, we really take control of our lives. There was a general semantics teacher named Alfred Korzybski, and he basically talked about the power of language, and he mentioned this concept called linguistic relativity, which is your language, the words that you use create your reality. The words that you use create your reality. I'll give you an example. If you go somewhere and you know you think you're going into an art gallery, right? Everything you see is a work of art. But then some random person comes next to you and he says, yo, this isn't an art gallery, it's a junkyard. And then everything goes from a work of art to scrap metal, right? This is just scrap metal. Nothing changed other than the language, other than the concept, the words. It's so powerful. I think the words that we use, so bringing it all the way back, when we say I am depressed, we literally depress, we shrink. But when we can use the words, I'm experiencing depression, we breathe, we can exhale.
I love it. And you talk about in that video and about, you know, we're the sky and the depression, the passing clouds. And we do forget that when we are in a storm, like you are in a snowstorm down there, you know, it's dark, it's cold, it's violent, and it's scary, and it's, you just, you know, you feel contracted. But if you can remember that the sun is always shining above those clouds, this too shall pass. You know, I am the observer of what's occurring, you know, but this I am can't be diseased. This I am can't be depressed, can't be sick. It's observing this human experience that we're having. And that just gives you that space. So speaking of that, a lot of people are writing in questions about some of our daily tools. And I'd love for you to share your practices, your tools that have given you that ability to respond to life rather than react, and show up with love and empathy. Because we were talking about our minds have a tendency towards the negative, I'll just share one of mine. And one of my daily practices is gratitude journaling. And actually right now I'm just, for the last like 12 weeks, I've been doing this 45-minute kind of manifestation meditation where I get into a meditative state for the first like 30 minutes. It's actually Joe Dispenza meditation. And then I think of two potentials that are out in the quantum field of infinite possibilities. For example, if I was facing a diagnosis, I would want to be healed and feel that vibrant health and thriving. So you walk through that, you visualize, you grab the harnesses of the reins of your mind, and you visualize what you do want. So you're creating neural pathways and visioning and feeling the elevated emotions of what you would feel like if you're healed. You would feel the relief, you would feel gratitude, you would feel so excitement to get back out there and do the things that you love doing. And you go through that practice every day. Whether it's writing it in a journal, like I'm so grateful that I've healed and I have more energy than I've ever had, and I'm able to do this, that, and the other. And I'm so relieved that this diagnosis is no longer a part of my experience. And you just spend time focusing on what you do want. Whereas our natural tendency is to be hijacked to this worst case scenario in the future. That's, again, just a potential that's in the field. So I think it's just so powerful to focus to grab the reins of our mind and focus on what we do want and feel those feelings and use our imagination in a proactive, creative way, rather than letting it constantly just be hijacked into worry, anxiety, and fear, which is really a future potential that we don't want, that we're focusing on, you know? So I don't know if you can share one of your practices.
I love what you just said. I mean, you just mentioned two big ones. You mentioned gratitude practice, and you mentioned visualization. Huge. I do recommend for everybody a gratitude practice. I think these two words can change a person's life, and those two words are thank you. If you can literally say thank you to everything, and you really turn your life into a thank you, it changes everything. And it's so simple. It's so simple, but it's atomic. The atom, it's atomic. The simple things can have such big shifts. So I would definitely say gratitude practice is one great tool, because I think what you're doing with a gratitude practice is you're training the ego, the mind, to lean positive, for its default to be grateful. And that's important. That's important. Some people, we say we think we can live at this enlightened state without ego. And I don't think that's true. I think we have to use it and not be used by ego. So I think we train it. We observe and we train it. And that's a great use of our time. Another simple thing, I always tell people the answer to your problems are right under your nose. A deep breath. The breath is so important, because you realize that the breath and mind are like this. They are so in sync. When your breath can slow, your mind slows. And just notice it. This isn't, I never want people to just believe me just because I'm an authority, or I don't think anybody should believe Joe Dispenza or any. You are your own guru, your own teacher. There's a wisdom and a power within everybody. And we have to test these methods. We have to put them to the test. And if you were to, I tell people, just take one conscious breath a day. Just one. Because you got to start small. So I love the principle of Kaizen. Kaizen meaning a Japanese word, essentially meaning small steps. There is a man by the name of John Wooden. I think he passed away, but he was one of the most winningest basketball coaches ever. I think he had an 80-something% winning percentage.
Go Bruins. Just kidding.
Huh?
I went to
The funny thing about him, he's this great coach, most winningest coach. Well, when incoming freshmen would come in, for the first week, he had them do this one activity. And usually I ask people, what do you think he made the kids do, the athletes do? And they say, oh, he made them shoot free throws. He made them practice their layups, practice their passes. No, the most winningest coach in NCAA history, in basketball history, for the first week, he taught his athletes how to tie their shoes. The most winningest coach taught his athletes how to tie their shoes, because he said, see, if you can tie your shoes properly, then you can run up and down the court for longer periods of time without risking injury. He knew that it was the little things that created the big wins. This is Kaizen. Sometimes in life, we get caught thinking we need to make huge changes. We need to lose 100 pounds. It's not the best way to do it, because when you have these big goals, what do? We procrastinate. This is a defense mechanism. The goal is too big. But if we can just zoom out and chop it down, they say, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. Sorry for the vegans. But if we can just chop it to small pieces, one push-up a day. You want to change your life, do one push-up a day. Because this starts to build the habit. And that habit starts to build into your self-image. Right? So it's the small habits. So I tell people, take one breath, one conscious breath a day. A larger practice, I call it going to Vegas, right? And when people hear that, it's like, going to Vegas, what do you mean? Well, when you breathe in from belly breathing, when you do it enough, you actually hit what's called the vagus nerve. And this opens up the parasympathetic nervous system. It instantly creates calm within maybe 45 seconds of breathing. There's a specific pattern, I believe it's a 4-7-8 breath. So inhale 4 seconds, hold your breath 7, and exhale 8. The exhale is particularly important because what's one of the most relaxing activities in humankind? Laughing. Laughing is a lot of exhales, and it makes us feel good. Right?
You're right.
So when we extend the exhale, I promise you, within 45, I think it was Andrew Weil, he says this is the best anti-stress technique he knows, hands down. Anti-stress, anti-panic, anti-anxiety. So the 4-7-8 breath is something that I come back to. I teach people before you go to sleep. It's great to do when you wake up. It's great to do throughout the day. It's great to do to calm yourself. But going back, I always say, if that's too much, just take one conscious breath a day, and that's enough.
I love that. And I love what you said about laughter. We talk about it so much in many of the interviews, but especially, Norman Cousins, that famous story that the guy healed himself through high doses of vitamin C and laughter. And he realized that while he was laughing, it was like there were no pain. He couldn't feel pain in his body simultaneous to when he was laughing. And so I just think, laughter is the best medicine. So
these cliches are cliches for a reason.
Exactly.
Another technique I want to tell people, this one comes from cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT, which I actually call crushing bad thoughts. And this is an amazing principle. It's called the double standard technique. Many people may have heard it. Many people may not have. It's so simple. When you find yourself experiencing negative thought patterns, what you want to do is ask yourself, how would my best friend, if I had to give advice to my best friend going through the feelings, emotions, and thoughts that I'm going through right now, what would I say? Right? So you talk to yourself as you were talking to your best friend. Right? Self-talk is so crucial. David Burns, really the father of this, or one of the fathers of cognitive behavioral therapy, he had a patient, and she was dying of ovarian cancer. And he met her in the hospital, and she had so many negative thoughts, one of which were she thought that she caused the cancer. Another was she thought that she was letting her family down. And the last one was her family won't be able to survive without her. And David Burns, he asked her to rate from 0 to 100 her belief in these thoughts. And her belief was 100, 100, 100. She fully believed all of these thoughts. And he tried the double standard technique on her. And he asked her, well, imagine there was a woman in a similar situation, the exact same situation as you're in with ovarian cancer. Would you tell her that she's letting her family down, that it's her fault that she got the cancer, and that her family won't be able to survive without her? She said, no, that would be cruel. Well, why do you speak to yourself like that? And within that session, her belief rating went from 100% to 0. And she was cleared. She ended up passing away from the cancer many months later, but she didn't have the suffering that went with it.
Oh, it's beautiful. I know we're so cruel to ourselves. And that's why one major aspect of, the crucial aspect is self-love and starting to become aware of how we speak to ourselves. People who are, think that they should look like this photoshopped, unrealistic, unattainable idea of beauty that's being shoved down our face. look at themselves in the mirror and they just beat themselves up. And it's, and our bodies are our greatest allies, that I am, that spirit, that soul, that spiritual being have a human experience. Our bodies are working so hard in every moment to, I mean, our hearts are beating, we're breathing, we're doing like millions of functions, digesting food, maintaining this balance between our bacteria and microbiome and our human cells. I mean, we are this amazing community and it's working so hard. So even this like autoimmune epidemic that's coming is just a misuse of language. Our body is attacking itself. Well, no, maybe the communication is off, the signals are getting mixed, but we have to get everything back in alignment because our bodies are not failing, our bodies are not attacking itself. Something is disrupting this communication in this brilliant community that we are. And I just, again, it comes down to a shift in perception, language, and really we just need, I wish we could, educate our healthcare professionals, a little different to should have the power of their words are literally can cause life or death. They're life or death. So I don't know if you could speak to that a little bit, but.
Wow. Absolutely. Life and death are in the word. That was in some scripture, I'm sure. Speaking about the autoimmune situation, I look at everything as from an evolutionary perspective. And when you look at things from an evolutionary perspective, you realize that some things that you think are destructive actually have benefit, but you haven't discovered the benefit yet. Or some things that you might have inside of you that might seem destructive are that way because the environment is making it that way. I'll give you a very clear example to emphasize the point. Deer. So I'm in St. Louis and I always see a lot of deer running around. And so what's very common, a common phrase, a common cliche is a deer in headlights, right? So when you're driving, what does a deer do, right? It stops, it freezes. A lot of people have never thought about, why does a deer do this? Well, it's because the freezing mechanism is, it stops so that it doesn't signal the predator's visual cortex, right? So if it freezes so it doesn't set off kind of that tripwire, because had it been in the wild and it froze, the predator might have just gone, about its way. But because it's in a busy intersection, that evolutionary mechanism, it doesn't work, right? So we see things like, the obesity epidemic, right? You ever thought about why sugar tastes good? It's because it was attached to nutrient-dense food, and our bodies want to preserve as much fat as we can just in case famine happens. Well, when you introduce corporations that want to hijack your brain and make food more and more addictive, right? It's an evolutionary adaptation outside of its normal environment, right? So I think it's you're absolutely spot on. It's about changing your perception, but changing it to the truth. You don't have to go to a wishful thinking. We can just look at the truth, because as they say, the truth will always set us free.
Amen. Amen. So hopefully in these interviews and the summit, we can learn a lot more truth so that we can be empowered to make different choices. One of the statistics or, things that I found in my research for HEAL was that, we're taught that we're victims of our genes. These genes are faulty. We're just at the mercy of our genes. And this is passed down from generation to generation. But I find it so fascinating after learning about epigenetics and the fact that somewhere between 1% and 5% of conditions are actually fully penetrant, and meaning there is an absolute defect and mutation in your gene that can't be fixed. That means 99 to 95% of conditions that we are experiencing or that express in our body, there's something we can do about them. And it usually comes in lifestyle and mindset shifts and changes.
Yeah.
And if you look over, and if that is true, then these things that are passed down from generation to generation. My grandma, this person died of this, and it goes down. It's because those same environments and those same belief systems are being passed down. It's our environment and our perception that turns on and off our genes. But we have the power to change our environment, improve it, our inner environment and our outer environment, and change our perception. So I really think that was one of the most powerful learning moments. And, we are co-creators. We're not victims of circumstance or genes. And that's just kind of what I have to say about that.
That's it. No, that's it. And we can see that in the twin studies that they've done. Twins in more healthier environments don't come down with the diabetes and the other ailments, because the environment is different. The environment is so crucial, and obviously perception and belief, right? Bruce Lipton, the biology of belief. Belief is crucial. So yeah, we absolutely see that. I love the metaphor that the genes, they load the gun, but the lifestyle, it pulls the trigger.
Ooh, that's good.
Yeah, it really is up to us. Kim Williams, I love Kim Williams. He's the president of the American College of Cardiology. He says, I'm not afraid of dying. I just don't want it to be my fault.
So good. Exactly.
Yeah.
We're all going to die, right? Let's do what we can to experience this life is long. And again, you have so many videos that I find myself crying at the end of. So if you guys, who are watching want more inspiration and more wisdom, please go check out Prince EA's YouTube channel, because even you have a video that I watched right before this. It says everybody dies, but not everybody lives. And in Kelly Turner's, Radical Remission book, which again just tells us the 9 key factors of healing. She's since added the 10th one, which is movement and exercise. Okay. But it's about finding reasons for living. It's connecting with that passion and purpose that you were meant to express and contribute here on earth. And that in the right path that you came here for. And sometimes that nudge comes in the form of a diagnosis or a wake-up call, because you've been resisting what your truth is. And if you could share with us how you move through fear, how you show up so authentically in life, and you're doing it and you're living it. You embody authenticity, and we all want a little bit more of that in our lives.
Wow. Well, a quote that I like to live by is, the cave that you fear holds the treasure that you desire. I believe this is Joseph Campbell. The cave that you fear holds the treasure that you desire. For me, my story, it was, you mentioned it in the beginning, it was the pivot from rap to kind of what I do now. And everybody's like, don't do it, don't, just keep doing what you're doing. Just keep going. And, I stumbled upon a story from Gandhi. Back in the day, Gandhi had organized and led a march in India, and people took off from work, quit their jobs, and to go for this march. And finally, the day of the march happened, and after one day, Gandhi quit. Everybody around was like, Gandhi, how can you just quit? I mean, we quit we took off work, we did all this. You call yourself a teacher, a guru, you're a coward. And Gandhi said, my commitment is to truth, not to consistency. My commitment is to truth, not to consistency. I know for me, I was living a life that was being consistent, but it wasn't true to who I was anymore. And I think so many people can relate to that. You're living a life based on an image maybe you had 30 years ago, or an image that maybe your friends think of you or your parents think of you, and you're trying to maintain that image. I say, let's be free. Let's be free. Let's wake up to who and what we are. The word sin, if you look at the etymology of that word, it was derived from a Greek word. It was used in archery, and it meant to miss your mark. And they say the greatest sin in life is to miss your mark in life, to not be who you were meant to be, to not answer the call when it kept ringing. And I think sometimes we just have to jump and grow our wings on the way down, right? We just have to leap and jump. But I think when you jump, you're going to glide, you're going to be carried, especially when it comes from the heart, when it comes from service. Henry Ford said, a business devoted to service will have only one worry about profits. They will be embarrassingly large. Service. You don't do it for the profit, but when you can serve because it just comes out of your true calling, you will be well taken care of. Zig Ziglar said, you can have everything in the world you want if you just help enough other people get what they want.
I love that. Yeah. Lynn McTaggart, I was interviewing with her, and I believe she's in the summit, and she talks about group healing, and she works with, energetic experiments all over the world, and people are meditating and sending intention, and it just shows that we're all connected. And there's the famous saying that everybody knows, that it's in giving that we receive. And it truly is when you are in service. She was working with this one woman that wasn't healing, and she was getting frustrated. And she's like, why is it working for everybody else? It's not working for me. And Lynn said, take your attention off yourself and give to another. So she started being, in the healing experience, not in the middle, receiving the healing. She was sending healing and sending intention to another person. And what they found in their research was all of the people that were in the circle sending intention and sending healing energy to the one lucky person that was in the middle. All of the people that were the senders of love and intention and healing energy, they healed as well. So I think too, sometimes we need to take our attention, as important as self-love is, and to be mindful of how cruel we are in our language to ourselves. Another thing we must do is take our attention off of ourselves and give to others, because that's it. Has a healing effect on our soul as well.
Well, the deepest self-love is recognizing that the Buddhists say the selfless self, that there's just one, that there's truly no you beyond thought. So this is what all the religious traditions say, we are one, right? So the best self-love is recognizing there's no separation between self and other, just with words. That's just words that get in the way. But when you strip down the body, the ideas, the beliefs, the concepts, the religions, the political affiliations, what's left at the core is love. That's what it's about. It's about coming home to that.
I love that. I truly believe our source, the energy, the frequency behind us all, where we come from, what we embody is love. That's why love is so healing, because it's back in alignment. It's back in ease with who we truly are, our truth, which is love. We've kind of tapped on some of the questions from the audience as we've gone on, and we're just gonna, as we wrap up here, there's one you may or may not have. It's a really difficult question because I struggle with it as well. But it has to do with physical pain. So it's great for us you and I are both very healthy, arguably because we've been doing these practices for a very long time and taking care of ourselves. But for someone that's just starting out on this journey and is dealing with physical pain every day, how can you be grateful? How can you do these practices, meditation or whatever, if you can't get past your physical pain? Do you have any tips or hacks on how to move through or get beyond physical pain?
Yeah, no, That's tough. Hmm. That is that because we experience reality through this physical body. And if your body is in pain, this is why I always tell people, I say you can't maintain inspiration if you have chronic inflammation in your body, right? People just aren't able to clear that, so it's important to I feel, to work on yourself, your body first, to get that in order, to move, to work with professionals, to really look at, I'm obsessed with exercise science, with nutrition, and I know that there are universal principles that can help people relieve and mitigate the pain that they're facing. But when you're in pain, you think this is going to last forever. There's no way out. I'm telling you that there is, that the answers are out there, the information is out there, and it's waiting for you to discover it. A lot of things, we know the research in the microbiome, shifting to a whole food, plant-based diet, really getting your hydration levels up, eating an anti-inflammatory diet, fasting. There's so many different mechanisms for the body. Because the spiritual gurus, they talked about a sattvic diet, right? The diet was so important to being able to reach these clear states of seeing, of beingness. We separate the mind and the body, but they're all one. They're totally one. So my advice, there's so much, and I have a book coming out that kind of talks about this in a course that just really comes down to the fundamentals. But Hippocrates got it right. Let thy medicine be thy food, and the food be thy medicine. I think that's totally important. But also, I'm going to tell you this. We can use the pain as a tool. It's difficult, but if we can use it as a springboard to come out of it, to say, one of my favorite books is Man's Search for Meaning, Viktor Frankl, and he talked about the people who were in pain, probably some of the worst pain, in the Holocaust. But he said the people who survived, they put a meaning on the pain. They said, when I get out, when I get through this, I'm going to help somebody else. And he said that those were the people who survived. It was the people who could attach meaning to the pain.
I love that. I love that. And I think it's back to, it's Kinzen, the small steps.
Yeah.
Do what you
Kaizen,
can.
yeah.
You breathe, you use it as like you said, there is meaning behind the pain. What is the pain? Your body is in constant communication. What is it trying to tell you? And it may not tell you day one, it may tell you day 65 as you turn within and contemplate and feel the pain, rather than go to your knee-jerk resistance, and you breathe and you try to communicate. You try to learn its language. The body is trying to communicate with you. So I love that. And I think Kinzen, small steps, be gentle on yourself and surround yourself with love. And if you can, laugh, because I think if Norman Cousins is true, when you're laughing, it's hard to feel pain. So try to laugh as much as you can, which I know is hard, and it's a lot of people are suffering majorly right now. So,
yeah. But one big thing I want to say is change your triggers, change your life. Change your triggers, change your life. So if you would ever come by my house and just go on a tour, you would see in my house I have triggers, I have notes, I have words, I have pictures. Almost everywhere you turn, that trigger me into a positive state. They remind me. There's a great book called Willpower Doesn't Work. The willpower myth, I think, has gone on too long. I think there is a level of willpower that the human being is endowed with. But what is greater than that is the environment, is the architecture of your environment. When you can change your architecture in your environment so that your desired habits or actions are easy because they're right there, that's when you change your life. Grocery stores and shopping malls, they understand the science of it, the science behind putting the brand name items at eye level. Why do they do that? And the others at the lower level? Well, if you put good food in your house at eye level, or good notes at eye level, or note in your car when you're driving, just to say thank you or breathe, so if you get road rage, you can look at that, breathe. So the triggers, I think, are so important. Changing the architecture of your life, I believe, is one of the fastest ways to self-improvement.
I love that. Oh my gosh, Prince, I could talk to you for days upon days, and I'm sure people would love to listen to you. Like I said, go watch his videos. They're amazing. Follow him on Instagram. And again, the Hay House Heal Summit #3 starts today. So if you haven't signed up already, it's free. Go to hayhousehealsummit.com.